men, I think, just historically, certainly me, if there's an issue, great. Here's the answer. Let me solve it. Let's go to the next thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a problem solver. I have a hammer for every job,
Right?
for every,
Exactly.
every, and versus getting beneath that and we don't need to solve this. We need to explore this and talk
Yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah. But for so many of us, it's not until our life starts to fall apart that we're like, well, maybe I don't need a hammer for this. Maybe hammer is the
yeah,
wrong tool completely,
yep,
you know? And it's challenging because we don't want to wait for our life to fall apart before we're like, hey, at the end of the day, when I've built my empire, what am I coming home to?
mm,
We want to be able to say to ourselves, hey, do you know what? I'm not looking to go woo woo. I'm not looking to take my brain apart here. I'm looking for play. I'm looking for
yeah,
curiosity. I'm looking to have a new foundation that doesn't use um, the last of my energy reserves at the end of every day just to keep this ship on track. I
yeah,
wanna be able to use a different kind of fuel, and regulation, a rested nervous system, that's where the genius ideas come from. That's
yeah,
where knowing where you are, um, micromanaging versus, having clear awareness and a clear plan, that's where that differentiation comes from. Because you're not operating from, "Okay, if I just keep moving, if I just keep doing, if I just keep problem solving, then I can avoid, the vulnerability of, oh, I wonder what's actually happening underneath here." Because a lot of the time for so many of us, it's like, "Oh gosh, I don't wanna sit with that discomfort. I don't wanna sit with
yeah,
that," you know? And what I say to that is, yes, if you look at a lot of traditional if anyone's ever been to traditional therapy or been through stuff in the past, that's what we
mhm,
think. You're gonna have to go through the muck. You're really just gonna have
yep,
to sit in misery for years before you really get anywhere. And my experience is actually, how about, yes, it's all of that information is useful. If you've lived it, that's useful. However, pattern recognition, working with the body, somatics, regulating your nervous system, a simple skill set, and, finding a place where it can be safe to get vulnerable. Like, it's not, you don't have to choose between the fear and the chaos of, oh gosh, do I have to trudge through decades of muck to kind of even get through my feelings versus, you know what? How about I start simplifying what I really feel and what I need, and understand that when I have mastery over the nervous system, the way that my body was built biologically in the first place, maybe I can apply my problem solving skill set to actually get my needs met. Like, that's cool.
I'll share because just to rewind a bit, you said, yeah, if you build your empire, but then there's nothing to come home to. Now, this is back in 2012 or something, 12, 14 years ago, 13 years ago, whatever. I, I've been divorced. I'm remarried now, but when I was single after being divorced, and I had two kids, and I was married for 19 years, still really close to my ex-wife, and we have a great co-parenting relationship, even now that the kids are grown. But I got promoted. I was working for a company at the time. I wasn't working for myself, but I was working for a company, and we merged two companies, and I was promoted to become the president of the business, and really exciting, and really a successful moment. And I remember driving home, walking into the house, it was dead silent because the kids were with my ex-wife for that evening, and I sat down on the couch and I stared at the TV that was not turned on, and I just realized, yeah, there's more to this. Like, by all means, I had a really successful day, and this is one of the saddest evenings of my life because I have no one to share it with, and it just, when you said that about building an empire, but what are you coming home to? I think too often entrepreneurs, very driven people, lose sight that you do that so that you can then maximize what you come home to and the opportunities and the options that you can provide if you're more successful for the people that you love. But when you come home to nothing, it's sobering. It's
It
really, really sobering.
Yeah. And there's this unique challenge as well that some people in successful businesses and, okay relationships and, they've ticked the boxes and then they come home, and even when things are going well, there's this gnawing feeling of like, what am I missing? And something that I come back to again and again, there's two things that I come back to again and again and again. anyone who's like, okay, I feel like I've lost my compass. What am I even fighting for? And I even have people, just out of defense and fear, sit there and be like, do you know what? I stuffed this. I'm just gonna go like take my jet or whatever it is, and I'm gonna go sail off into the sunset and stuff relationships, stuff all this. It's all too hard. And something, for me personally, there are a couple of things that really have that act as my compass and my guide. And anyone who's a parent will always say parents first. For me as well, my faith is such a huge thing. My sense of purpose. Those are really traditional things. The work that I do, because I've lived it, I know the groundbreaking effect that it had on my mental well-being, my life, my business, my just that ability to light up every day and go like this is what I'm alive for. In saying that, there are the two things that everyone, no matter what your sense of faith is, no matter whether you're a parent or that's not been your path, um, no matter whether you're just working on building an empire or working for your dream and your passions, the two things that always inform where I want to be by the end of my life are, one, the five wishes of the dying. Um, that's such a powerful lesson in what we want at the end of our lives. The five greatest regrets of the dying. One of them being, I wish I hadn't thought so much about what everyone else thought of me. I wish I'd done that thing. I wish I'd followed that dream because nobody cared. It didn't matter if I ended up with egg on my face. So those five
Yeah.
regrets of the dying, they're beautiful things. But the second is also one of the longest studies ever done by Harvard on health and happiness. They expected a really strong correlation between where you lived and maybe your sense of wealth and, you know, all of these things. They took into account people no matter where they lived, what country, what demographic, how much money they had. They took everything into account and they realized that without fail, the greatest indicator that showed whether you were going to have a long, fulfilling, healthy, and happy life had one common denominator, and that was the strength and depth of our connections and our relationships around us.
Mm.
That was
Yeah.
so moving to me because we can so easily think, if I just have that thing, if I just do that thing, if I just, go, 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 then I'll be happy. But do you know what? There's always another milestone.